Later this month, the NHS will start a Covid-19 rehab service. It's for the tens of thousands of people who are still suffering the long-term effects of the virus. Until then, people have been supporting each other online.
We're all members of a club no one wanted to join. Different backgrounds, ages, experiences. Thousands and thousands of us have been struggling for weeks and months with ongoing symptoms of Covid-19.
The support group Long Covid SOS made this video to push for more help from the government. Their members all have what's been called long Covid. It is the subject of this week's clinic with Dr. Sarah Jarvis. We're also joined by the film director Gez Medinger, who contracted Covid back in March but is still not right. Welcome to you both. Gez, if I can start with you. On the worst of days, how bad is it?
Well, it's very difficult to get out of bed, to be quite honest. On the worst of days, they tend to happen if you've done a little bit too much the previous day, but you never know on any given day what's going to be too much. It might be 20% of what you might have normally done today, it might be 30%, but if you do too much, banging headaches, crippling fatigue, you can't concentrate, you can't read, you can't watch TV, you are literally bedridden. That's what it's like for me anyway.
How, Gez, has it impacted on your work? You're a creative, you're a film director and a producer.
Hugely. I'm pretty much unable to work in a normal fashion at the moment. I can work in bursts here and there where I have the energy, but the fatigue comes in waves, maybe 4 or 5 times a day. And when those happen, you often have to sort of basically go and lie down. You know, if you're in a normal working environment, it's not really compatible with what might be expected of you in a shoot, for example. So very difficult.
Dr. Jarvis, Gez isn't alone, is he? What have your patients been telling you?
Sadly, he's by no means alone. There's a survey that's come out that suggests that up to 1 in 10 people who've recovered officially from coronavirus are left with long-term symptoms. Now, we've heard for many years of people who have ME, used to be called chronic fatigue syndrome, and the symptoms that Gez is describing are very, very similar to that. A survey by the Asthma UK and the British Lung Foundation suggested that about 90% of people are suffering from breathing problems, more than 2 in 3, extreme tiredness. Breathing problems different from some other forms of ME, of course, but 1 in 5 with sleep problems, more than 1 in 5 with cough, and really importantly, a huge impact on mental well-being, which is hardly surprising when you feel so exhausted and unwell.
Yeah, on that, Gez, how have you coped with the impact it's having on your day-to-day life? You know, before March, you were just going about your daily business and now everything has changed.
I was training for the London Marathon. I was running 90-kilometre weeks, and I've gone from that to being unable to run at all. You know, I mean, I've had my own relationship with mental health issues, and it certainly makes dealing with those much harder, especially if something like running is one of your coping mechanisms, and now you can no longer do it at all. So it completely reframes your life, what you can expect of yourself. You know, you can't make plans for tomorrow or the day after that because you don't know if you're going to wake up and be able to actually function or leave the house. It changes everything, to be quite honest.
What have other long Covid sufferers told you? Because I know you speak to them as part of trying to get help for yourself.
Well, I've done some studies across some of the long haul groups on Facebook, including like up to 1,800 members of those who've taken part in these studies. And across those, we've discovered that 80% of them feel unable to go back to normal work at the moment. So it's a huge proportion of them that's having a huge effect on them. And my symptoms are actually not that severe compared to many of the people out there who are struggling much worse than I am. A lot of people can't even sort of come downstairs or go back upstairs. Their heart rate rises, they feel out of breath and exhausted, and that might be too much exertion for them, and they might be then laid up for a day or two after just that.
Dr. Jarvis, what's your advice for Gez and others like him, especially those who are unable to work right now?
Don't try and do too much too soon. I know it's frustrating because I keep hearing about patients who were fantastically fit, just like Gez before, and who have been completely polaxed. But with ME, what we know is that doing too much tends to bring your symptoms on. So pacing yourself is absolutely key. The NHS is just about to launch initially an online portal, but it will become a face-to-face portal. It's called the Your Covid Recovery Service. That should be out later this month. So well worth keeping an eye out for that.
Gez, is that something you will be using when that service goes live?
Absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of the long haulers out there are desperate for some recognition of the condition and any kind of support we can get towards rehabilitation and how we can reintegrate ourselves into a working environment again. It's incredibly difficult, and right now there isn't that much knowledge about it amongst primary care and GPs. So anything that we can do to raise awareness is incredibly important.
Yeah, Dr. Jarvis, look, it is still very much a new virus and a new problem, isn't it? Some people have mild symptoms but then get long COVID. Is it too early to tell, medically speaking, what is causing this type of reaction to the body?
Yes, it is. But of course, there are many other symptoms, many other people who've been struggling for years with conditions like ME. We know, for instance, with glandular fever, that can cause very profound tiredness, but we still don't know yet. It's really important that people recognise that you don't have to be, quote, severely ill with COVID. In other words, the acute symptoms don't have to be severe in order for you to have long COVID. And I think it's a really salutary reminder of young people who think they're going to shake it off as if it's a common cold, that this is affecting a lot of young people as well.
Yeah, as the unlocking continues. Dr. Sarah Jarvis and Gez Medinger, thank you very much for speaking to me about this. And you can read much more information and get more advice about preventing the spread and treating coronavirus on our website, itv.com/news.